Hey everyone, so in this section we're talking about 5 things that you need to know about the University of the People. Now if you haven't checked out the original segment that we actually did, I'm going to link that in the comment section below. It's going to act as a great introduction for many of you who are interested in some of the programs that are offered, or if you want a little bit more information and you want some clarification on whether or not it's something that's right for you, then that's a great place for you to actually start and to kind of continue on with your research beyond that segment as well. In this particular segment, we're going to be talking about 5 critical things that a lot of people have been asking about in the comment section of the previous segment, but also elsewhere on the internet as well. So hopefully we'll be able to add a little bit of clarification for you there as well. So the first you want to talk about is probably the topic that comes up the most frequently, which is the costs associated to the degrees that are offered at the University of the People. Now, of course, the programs are tuition free. However, there are going to be assessment fees that students are going to be responsible for. Now, whether you're looking at a traditional program that is going to have tuition fees, or even the University of the People as well, there are going to be some administrative costs that are associated with actually administering a degree program. And a lot of the assessment fees are going to be to cover some of these costs as well. So it's not something that is kind of a substitute for the tuition. What you'll find is that almost all degree programs, or many of them anyways, that you're probably going to be looking at almost any institution, is going to have some type of auxiliary fee on top of the tuition fee. However, what you'll find is that the tuition fees are typically the majority of the costs that students are going to incur. So the fact that you're going to not have to be responsible for the tuition fees associated to these programs is going to reduce your costs substantially. You'll only really be responsible for the assessment fees. Now this is going to bring me to point number 2. You do recognize that there are going to be people located all over the world where even though the assessment fees are the only thing that you're going to be responsible for, and although they might be not quite as robust as what you would expect at a traditional school, it can be quite problematic for some people who might be juggling a bunch of different financial responsibilities. And for that reason, there are some scholarships that are available. Some organizations have teamed up with students to be able to cover some of the assessment fees, particularly students who come from a background which requires them to have some sort of assistance to be able to actually matriculate into the program as well. And so there are some options that are going to be available. Of course, as many scholarships are around the world, they're going to be limited, and there's probably going to be some sort of application process that's going to come along with that. So be prepared for that as well. Do your research as early as possible. Reach out to somebody at the school if possible, if this is something that you really do rely on for you to even be able to consider some of these programs. Now, number 3 is going to be the fact that the programs are actually not self-paced. And what I mean by this is you can't just pay the fees, get into the actual program, register, start now, and kind of just try to speed through the programs at your own pace. What you'll find is that there is going to be a semester-based system, very similar to many of the other degree granting schools that you might be considering as well. And so it's very important for students to actually follow a traditional semester format as well, which again is, I think, beneficial for many students so that they do get that atmosphere that's going to be very similar to what they would experience at some other institutions, but also it's just a great way to facilitate the learning process, to build communities around some of these programs, to be able to interact with your peers and with the faculty that happen to be supporting you through the program as well too. So I actually think that this is a positive in the program, but might be very important to some people who want to, take the program at their own pace, whether it's going through the program quicker or taking a longer period of time because they have other responsibilities. It's important for you to remember that there is a semester-based system. So if you're not able to work within the confines of a traditional semester, then that might be something for you to consider as well. Now the next point is that the programs themselves are actually very rigorous. So a lot of people assume that because of the nature of the programs that are being offered, because of the structure of the actual institution offering them as well too, some people assume that the program is going to be extremely easy, which is absolutely not the case. If you were to look at the faculty that's part of a lot of these programs, and if you were to also look at sort of their mission behind developing these programs and kind of the partnerships that they've been able to cultivate, this is really because of the fact that the programs are really going to be rigorous, and they're going to expect students to actually master a lot of the concepts that are being taught in the same way that they would for a traditional college program as well. And so if you're looking for something that you feel will be much easier than a traditional college route, that's absolutely not going to be the case here. You're very much going to get a fairly robust education, particularly for the costs that you're going to be getting it for as well. So the last point I want to talk about is the fact that these programs, and kind of piggybacks off of the last point, in that these programs are not designed for people who cannot get into traditional college programs. You should not be viewing these programs as, well, if I can't get into an actual, traditional program, or one that you'd be paying tuition for at another school, whether it's a state school or a private school, then this will kind of be your backup plan. That's absolutely not the case. There are going to be admissions requirements for you to abide by as well. And of course, as I mentioned in the previous point, these programs are not going to be easy. They're going to require quite a bit of time and dedication, and studying in the same way that any other college program will as well. And so don't necessarily look at this in terms of being kind of a lower tier than a traditional college program. Although there are going to be much fewer expenses associated to a degree like this, of course, because of the nature of the actual programs, it very much is going to be expected that students are giving it as much attention as you would to any other college degree program that you might be matriculating in. So hopefully this provided you with a little bit more information and some clarification on a few of the key points that continually come up, particularly pertaining to the University of the People. I'd love to hear your comments, questions, and concerns in the comments section below. I'd love to know if you've ever attended any of these programs. I'd also love to know whether or not you know someone else who has as well, and what their thoughts and opinions were of the programs. Again, you can leave that in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much again for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe if you appreciate this, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.